Oklahoma and Texas have been part of the SEC schedule format discussions. They are not in Destin. They do not have representation there. Part of the quote, to be a part of those conversations, Oklahoma and Texas do not have reps in Destin for the SEC meetings. Meanwhile, the Big 12 is converging in Dallas, as I mentioned, for the governance meetings, the presidents, ADs, women's senior athletic advisors, and among others, will be in Dallas, including Macro, Dr. Linda Livingstone, among some others.
It's going to be a weird 2 years for Texas to not have their opinion matter in two conferences.
Well, but you say that.
I'm sure it does.
They have been part of the SEC scheduled format discussions.
Yeah, but like they're not there, so like it's like they're going to come in, and that's what's weird to me is Texas is going to come in with Oklahoma in a couple years, and they're going to be like, hey, by the way, we decided this without you. I hope you got the email. And Texas is going to have to just sit on that. So, and right now in the Big 12, I mean, they're involved in things, but, you know.
We also know that they're kicked out of the room when other things are discussed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're kind of a team, a group of teams with, you know, dual allegiances at the moment and really kind of sitting in no man's land. Now, I know where they're headed is very promising, and there's a bright future there, so I'm not sure that they're really all that worried about it. But, yeah, they're kind of a team whose opinion doesn't really matter all that much right now. And I'm sure some would argue that, but I don't care to, because what I mean in that is that the Big 12 is making decisions that have nothing to do really with OU and Texas. At this point, they're worried about their future, and yes, they're worried about the present as well and how all this will exit, but they're having to worry about that because they're having to wait on Oklahoma and Texas to leave. So they're also making plans for after they leave. And then, you know, on the SEC side of things, I'm very interested to see how all that political stuff works out for them over there. You know, the big boy throwing the weight around the room like they were for 2 decades in the Big 12 is just not going to fly the same in that conference. And I'm sure that they'll go in a bit more reserved and know that too, and know that they can't just walk in there, oh, I'm Chris Del Conte, Texas AD. Well, there's like 10 other ADs who couldn't give 2 S's less that he's the Texas AD. And so that's going to be different, but I'm sure they're going to, you know, be very well prepared for that, and they'll pick their spots, and before you know it, I'm sure they'll be involved in some power play of some sort because that's just their history. But they, you know, they got a bright future, but right now, yeah, for those two teams, it's just kind of a weird place where you're in, but you're out of 2 different conferences all at the same time.
By the way, when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, I don't know for sure, and this could be just because I've forgotten with my age, but I'm not so sure their first year didn't have like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, among everyone else in their division. They loaded it up, and that was like the every other whatever year. The SEC with Oklahoma and Texas, would that not be interesting if somehow they drew Alabama, because they may be in the same division if they have them, or pods, but they won't be in the same pod. But then you add Georgia, Florida, LSU, which would be, you would think, is one of their or both their pods. Just it'll be interesting to see how that.
But why would the SEC do that? That would be against what they should be doing. I understand, like from our perspective, you'd want to see them.
I thought it would be funny if they did.
It'd be funny. It'd also be the dumbest business move the SEC could make, because they're not trying to make these two teams look like they're, you know, not a part of the elite. They want them very much to come in and be part of their headliner of school. So, yeah, they would be funny from a Big 12 fan's perspective, but from the SEC perspective, that wouldn't.
Yeah, and also, I think the fan bases at Texas and Oklahoma say, game on. They'd love to see those games. They really would.
It also kind of works out for Texas and Oklahoma that they're leaving at a time where the entire idea of scheduling is changing.
No, absolutely.
So they wouldn't get dealt that hand, because it's not probably possible anymore, the way that the schedule is going to rotate. So, I mean, and like with Nebraska, you know, the Big Ten throws them that schedule because they had those rules. They're stuck with that schedule for several years.
And maybe, I don't know.
Where it's going to be like that. Well, the new way scheduling looks like, where it's going to be, you know, 3-5-5 or 3-6-6, whatever you want to say, those scheduling models, you know, you're not going to have that schedule every year, because it'll be 1 year on, 1 year off.
And the thing about Nebraska, and you would hope if you're Texas and Oklahoma, there was a time when that schedule could have been that way and they would have been fine. Doesn't mean they would have run the table, but there was a time when they would have played that schedule and been able to hang with it. Speaking again of the baseball, we talked about Steve Rodriguez out